Today is Wednesday, March 11th, 2 p.m. EST. That is 3 p.m. Brazilian time. That's how you know how integrated we are into Brazil's economy. Victor, we are the only show on X that announces Brazilian time. Um,
Nice.
and then for our Euros across the pond, that's 6 p.m. UTC. Welcome up. Today we have Victor with us from Norse Finance.
Nora, Nora.
Nora Finance. Pleasure to meet you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the invite, and glad to be here. It's awesome. And thanks for telling the time.
No, it's
Well,
great. Yeah, it's great to have you. I've over the last couple years doing these shows with Marty, I found out that Brazil is almost like this unknown heart of crypto. There seem to be a lot of crypto people that are in Brazil that we are surfacing from Marty here. It's like
yeah,
one of the
last week
people,
we had Lucas on from Knox Finance. He's from Sao Paulo. He's Carioca, but he's in Sao Paulo for work. They run swaps, USDC, BRL, back and forth. There's a way around EOFE, which is the government tax, I guess.
Mhm.
Happy to have you on, Victor. And if you want to give anybody your background who doesn't know you, I feel like I'm putting Brazilian builders on the forefront. So feel free to intro yourself and tell us more.
Nice. Thanks, Martin, for doing that. So my background is I was part of the founding team of Bankless in Brazil, which was the biggest international community outside of the US for Bankless. It was very great. It was in the early DeFi summer. We had an amazing time there. It was more an educational community, and we ran as a DAO. It was very like idealistic and activist, I'd say. And after that, after 2 years of participating in that community, a lot of good DeFi OG builders came out of it. But I joined two DeFi startups as growth manager during that time, and then after that, so I joined Super Team, Solana Super Team, to create super teams here across Latin America, Super Team Brazil, Super Team Mexico, and we did some activations in other countries as well here in the region, mainly Argentina because Argentina was a very hot topic since like 2024 with Milei. So crypto scene there was very interesting. And then I joined briefly a marketing agency company, which I'm still a partner. They're more focused in go-to-market for crypto companies in Brazil. And then after that, I got invited from a friend of mine from the Super Team Times. He was like one of the main Solana devs in the country, and I was I was in the business ecosystem side and marketing as well. And then he invited me to co-found Nora with him. So here I am. It's a wide journey. The ecosystem, we meet a lot of people, and it's a very united, I would say, ecosystem here in Brazil. So nice,
Uh,
very very good
It's
to talk
a
about it.
yeah, it's a small community. You probably know Antonio Neto, the one with the beard.
Yeah,
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 good friend of mine. He's the Solana
nice.
lead of Brazil. It's a very small, tight community, but there are a lot of teams building a lot of cool stuff. And one thing that I would say is different from the U.S. is that the Brazilian government is on the forefront, not just on the regulatory side, but also on the tax side. They've come out
Mhm.
and said all the exchanges can have legal exchanges here. You just have to have a Brazilian entity. You have to have somebody in Brazil representing you, maybe an office or a lawyer. You have to obviously report to the IRS, the Receita Federal, which is if you have a CPF, a tax ID, the exchange has to report to Receita Federal. And they also have this sandbox where the government was testing with companies like Aave or different DeFi builders to bring a stablecoin. I always shill pics here on the show. We already have an instant settlement layer called Pix, but we haven't really seen a big BRL stablecoin come out. You know, there's BRLA, there's you guys with BRS, and there's I think that's
There's
it right now.
BRZ as well from Transfer.
BRZ.
This
That's
is kind of older, yeah.
Yeah. But you know, I'm curious on how you kind of skated through the regulatory of Brazil, if they've been treating you well, if it's easy and guidance as well, or if you've been hitting any roadblocks and you know they've been giving you a hard time.
Yeah, I think the worst regulation that you can face is the regulation of someone that doesn't understand what you're doing. So we don't have this problem in Brazil, I would say. Of course, in some levels we have. When you go to Congress, they don't know what they're doing most of the time. But when you go to the central bank, which is the responsible now to regulate most of our industry, they know what they're talking about. They spent more than 2 years building the CBDC, DREX. They are kind of in this standby mode for the DREX project, but they spent a lot of time, a lot of research doing it. They talked with a lot of people, all the ecosystem, essentially. They talked with both traditional financial institutions and DeFi players, like the most native DeFi players that you can talk. They talked with them, and also they had different programs. Lifty Learning was a program that they had. It was essentially a DeFi course inside the central bank, free for everyone to take. So they made different consultations last year, public consults that aim to understand better what's the regulation for VASPs mainly in Brazil, which accomplishes like exchanges, ramps, and custodians mainly. And they now published a resolution last year in October to regulate VASPs in Brazil. And we have now a regulatory window, let's say, from February to October of this year to comply with this VASP regulation that came out. So it's not, I'll not say that it's a perfect regulation, but at least it's a clear understanding of the sector and clear, I would say, rules for the game.
Mm-hmm. And for people who don't know, Drex is the Brazil CBDC. They ran a pilot program for a few years. They haven't officially launched it yet. I'm not sure the delay. We already have Pix, which pretty much is instant. You can send an unlimited amount basically. But when it comes to the regulation and the VASP, is there like a monetary? Is there a money amount that you need in the bank? You know, like when they did this sports betting thing in Brazil to get the license, you needed 30 million reais, like $6 million.
Yeah.
Is there a financial barrier to enter to get a VASP in Brazil, or is it very easy, or is it hard?
It is kind of hard. So for early stage startups, most of them will or need to use someone to be like a crypto as a service firm or a joint venture to do it, because they have a high barrier right now for early stage. So you need to have a physical office. You need to have a compliance team. You need to have policies for a lot of stuff, AML, KYC, KYB. And you also need to have, at least for the lowest category that we have, there are 3 categories. The lowest one, it sits at $2.2 million. And the
Cash, right?
yeah, and the biggest one goes to $6 million or roughly 30 million. Yeah, so it's a barrier for someone that is trying to build something from scratch in Brazil. But for the established players, okay, it's okay play because most exchanges they already have this amount of money to deal with. And this is mainly tackled to centralized exchange that have custody inside. So even ramps, if they do like this intermediation between players, they already face this regulation, this VASP regulation.
Just have you guys raised like a big round recently, or are you guys still in grinding startup mode?
We're in the middle of both, I'd say. We're in the grinding mode, but we raised a little bit, and then we are in the seed round. So we did a pre-seed. Now we're raising a seed, but we don't want to be a VASP. That's the trick part.
Yeah.
We understand that we are in the different category. We are in the stablecoin issuancy category, and the stablecoin law, which regulates tokenizers and RWAs and stablecoins from Brazil, it's on Congress right now, and it's election year, so we don't hope it passes too soon.
Yeah, at least here that they're trying. You know, they're working with smaller teams. They're giving a path to regulatory. In the U.S. is like minimal to none. You know, if you're a super small player, it's pretty much screw you. And if you're a big player, you have enough money to lobby for what you want to get. You know, you're sitting there
Yeah,
in DC with your lawyers, basically. We're seeing Coinbase and Brian do this now, right? Like with this Clarity Act, allowing stablecoins to give yield to retail. The banks don't like this because that cuts into their business. But everybody that I talk to in Brazil is very maybe I'm in my own bubble, right? But very forward looking. Everybody into I think Pix was 2018. People were a little skeptical of Pix at first. Now it's if you don't have Pix, like it's impossible to live, right? Like even the guy on the beach selling cocoa has a fucking Pix, right? The lady giving a massage has a Pix. You can even go to the grocery and pay with Pix. Now it's so deeply integrated. It just really takes like a shift of perspective or a change of light, and then you know the whole population starts to accept it. With you not being a VASP and just doing the stablecoin RWAs and things like this, does the EOF, the IOF tax play a role here for, let's say, foreigners or Brazilians looking to swap, let's say, to USDC or T?
yeah. So the way that we structure is that we have partners, VASP partners, or applicants for a VASP in Brazil, because no one is a VASP right now. But we have people that are preparing the terrain to become a VASP, right?
Yeah.
So these are our partners. They are approved minters of our stablecoin, and most of these partners are ramps, and they're integrated into neobanks, into exchanges, whatever. And they do this conversion between the Pix and our stablecoin. This is not a FX. This is not FX, right? This is not a between dollar and real. It's real to real. So there's no IOF. There's no tax. And when you want to swap your S to a USD stablecoin, then you can pay tax if you are doing this in a centralized way. If you're doing this on chain, then you don't pay tax because the government will never charge IAMM, at least not for now. But if you're doing this with a cross-border player, OTC desk, then you need to pay IOF. And to be very honest with you, I think in Brazil, people do whatever it takes to not pay this kind of taxes in it. So,
Of course.
yeah.
Yeah, this is you know, dividends tax. So in the 90s, the lawyers wrote the law to make dividends zero. So lawyers paid no tax for 30 years. You know, people who run businesses and dividends, they have no tax, or you know, you hold shares and get dividends from those shares, you also pay no tax. Also, a bunch of gringos set up companies to get like a nomad visa, and then they were able to be employed by their own company, and their pay was like dividends. So they were skipping out on paying income tax. Now this year is 10%, I think. But if it's under 50,000 hash, which is like $10,000 a month, you still pay no tax. So that's still real good for lower income people, smaller businesses, up and coming startups. Like dividends being under $10,000 a month, you pay no tax. Anything over is 10, flat rate 10. That's pretty good on a global standard. When you look at income tax, I think it's 27.5 at the highest bracket, and the highest bracket is not that high, right? It's like 8,000 or 10,000 hash a month. It's nothing,
Mhm.
right? But getting into Brazil, and how do you think that the landscape is here in Brazil? Like how I look at it is there's more CPFs that have a cryptocurrency exchange account versus on B3, which is the Brazilian stock market. Obviously people like to gamble. We see huge inflows into sports betting, into online casino sites. Even people on welfare, Bolsa Familia, are moving money. This has now
Yeah.
stopped, but moving a large majority of the money into sports betting. Like how do you see the future of crypto in Brazil when we already have every form of gambling, every form of money movement? What's the future of crypto in Brazil?
So I think that the trading community in Brazil is huge, and you hear more of them because most of the content creators in Brazil, they are traders. That's why you have most of people have the impression that the users of crypto users in Brazil are most of the time gamblers. I will not say that is not, but the data shows itself that more than 70% of the whole crypto industry in Brazil, whole crypto transactions in Brazil, it was stablecoins. For a lot of factors, for remittances, for cross-border payments, liquidating dollars or buying dollars for protection, or buying dollars for if you want to travel, or if you want to send money, if you're a remote worker, for example. So there is a lot of cross-border payments opportunity in Brazil, and a lot of companies are taking advantage of that. To be honest, in the past, let's say 3 years, this industry is one of the biggest industries in crypto in Brazil. Payments, cross-border payments between dollars and reais, or just selling this a better FX rate for exporters, for importers, for a trade market, for high net worth individuals that want to buy property, for example, in the States or in Europe. This kind of play, if you do this in traditional finance in Brazil, it's horrible. It's a horrible experience. You pay a lot of money, you pay tax, and Brazilians, they don't like tax, like anyone in the world. And I would say I often joke, to be honest, that in Mexico the main killer feature for crypto is remittances. For Argentina is just buying dollars to hedge against high inflation. In Brazil is a shortcut to avoid taxes, because you pay a lot of taxes on like your consumer goods. You pay a lot of taxes on your if you receive a salary, for example, more than 40% of your salary goes to some part of a government sector, and you have this feeling in Brazil that you pay more than you should. So any of those like add extra taxes, IOF is one ridiculous example of that. That you need to pay, you try to avoid at any cost. So I'd say that that's the use case for Brazil. You avoid to pay taxes that are unnecessary on your financial life.
Yeah, and minimum wage here is like just over $200, 1,300 hash, 1,300 hash. It's not much. And then I think if you gain under 5,000 hash, about $1,000 a month, you don't pay income tax. But anything over, you start to get hit on the income tax side. When we look at Brazil and the market in a whole, right? Already said earlier, there's more CPFs with cryptocurrency exchanges accounts versus B3 stock market accounts. But what's crazy to me is the Brazilian market, the TradFi market, you're able to trade more products as a retail trader than you are in the US. You have access to funds, you have access to futures, with insane day trade leverage, by the way. There's no $25,000 minimum. You can put $200 and get it's like 400x leverage day trading. You need to put 50% up cash if you're trading overnight, if you're holding overnight, but the day trade requirements are absolutely nothing. I think you pay 1% of the profits or something every day, plus a tax at the end of the year. But when we look at this and the real yield in Brazil, which Selic, the overnight rate is 15, inflation's like 3 or 4. Let's call the real rate, a 10 or 11. How do you look at offering a stablecoin? Like, are you going to pass that 10% on, or are you going to pass the leaky on to retail, or you're going to hold some for yourself? Do they need to stake it for, like in a CDI type product for, the more you stake it, you can get 120% CDI or 150% CDI. How do you guys look at passing this rate or the real rate or the Selic rate into retail or into your token holders?
Nice, amazing question, because it's exactly what we're building. So yeah, we want to create a product. We are developing it right now, which is a vault that you need to stake. But we are distributing this through Neobank. So for Neobank, it will be essentially like a savings account in BRL. It's essentially a revenue share of our float. So we monetize our float 100% CDI, which is 15%, 14.9% APY. And we have this revenue share mechanism that allows us to create a dynamic vault. So people that are not staking BRS, they are essentially giving up their excess yield to the stakers. So we have uplift of this APY. On our projections, it goes to 18 to 24% APY. And for example, if 48% of PRS holders stake, we still can maintain 18% APY. And we have other products as well, DeFi products that we will distribute as well. We have LP Vault for LP positions for on-chain FX with the dollar, and we also have money markets. So you can take BRS, lend BRS, or borrow BRS against any other asset, USD, for example. And you can do, as well, can invest in RWA yield, which is essentially most of the time private credit or corporate debt. We have some products that we are working with, but they're mainly they're kind of the same credit products that you have in a bank, but we wrap this into a tokenized version. Here in Brazil, you can have good products, credit products to buy and to have some certain APY uplift. And we are tokenizing, helping others to tokenize as well the same products, using our stablecoin as like the deposit layer and also the payout layer of the yield of these products. So that's the way that we're structuring it. And we're not only building a stablecoin, we're building the ecosystem on top of it with partners as well. We're not doing this by ourselves.
Yeah.
Actually,
So
there's a team back in the day called Butterfly, and they had when they created their ETH staking derivative called Dinero, they also had a stable coin.
Nice.
And the way they were able to generate more yield for their LST than others was they were using other DeFi protocols that they were integrated in, and they had other products that they had incubated from the DAO that they came from that integrated their products. So they were like immediate integration into these types of DeFi Legos, almost give them more yield than you could get if you were just staking ETH natively through Lido.
Nice. Yeah, it's this kind of we have one asset which we want to for this asset to be a productive asset on chain, which is BRS, which is the stablecoin, and we'll be importing the Selic, which is our interest rate, which is a high real yield. We will import this into the system to feed all the system, but to generate as well. Kind of a leverage, not in the traditional futures or derivatives sense, but every product, every lending product, every AMM product from our side, there is also the incentive of Selic on top of it.
Yeah, when a lot of, so let's say 50% or whatever, 49, 50% of the users don't stake. You take that, whatever cash you're getting, you kick that back to the stakers. So they could get
Yeah.
more than 15%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then where do you make money? You just take a small fee on that. You take 1-2% on the total.
We make 20% of the float yield, and the rest is ecosystem incentives for the stake vault. And we also have some rebate for the LP vault as well. So if you're providing liquidity for BRS and USD, you have both rebates on the USD part and the BRS part, and the LP fees on top. That's yeah.
You can triple dip.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that we're structuring it. And the important thing for us is not to create a good yield product, is to wrap this and distribute it in a very intelligent way, I would say. Because I think for a lot of time, DeFi was it was a very different game for most, like for Brazilians, for native Brazilians. I think that most of these people, they need to take a whole course to understand DeFi, right? So I want to wrap this into new banks that can distribute for us.
This is
We're
great.
seeing that more and more with the app layer that exists now and that's kind of being built. Like people are starting to move towards, we'll say, like these products that are seamless transitions from traditional use apps and crypto apps, where the crypto part of it is obfuscated behind it. And I
Yeah.
brought this up like a year ago, Marty. You know, Polymarket is the best example of this, where you started seeing it integrated into traditional finance and the news, where they were referencing it not for, you know, the gambling site that it is, but for data. They were, you know, to them it wasn't a a crypto site to go and bet on. It was a source of truth for data and sentiment. And you know, for people to go and when people would go on and use it, like them being deployed on Polygon is abstracted away, and you don't know that as a real user. Um, if you don't want to, right? If you don't want to participate in the crypto side of it, you don't have to. And now you're seeing other apps that have popped up in like the TCG markets, where they're abstracting away the crypto rails that they're using, and it's just a warehouse and marketplace, right? And now we're starting to see it with some of the financial apps where um, I'd even say, Marty, the tap trading, you know, thing, right? Like they have this tap trading app that's on Mega that it feels just like a slot machine, right? Like a game where you're just loading up, you know, maybe $10 and placing little dollar squares on different price points on a moving chart. And if they hit, you win money, and if you know they don't, you lose the money you bet on it. But you're just seeing it's like the era of abstraction, right? And not like and that abstraction is abstracting away the crypto aspect of it, so that to a user it's just, you know, using a new banking app, right? Getting a card to spend your money on from that, playing a new
Yeah.
game. Off the Grid is another example. So it was a game that came out for like PlayStation, PC, and um, you know, to all the regular players, it's just another team deathmatch style like extraction shooter. And to the crypto people, like they were purchasing rare guns and rare skins and like had the NFTs. And if they logged in, they could connect their account and, had access to all of that stuff. So, um, if you didn't want to see it, you just bought it from the store, just like you would buy anything else from Fortnite or from any other game. But you also had the opportunity to, as a crypto participant, to see those on all the secondary markets and buy it from the back end essentially. Um, I think we'll see a lot more of that as crypto becomes more and more integrated into just the normal world and tools that people are using
Yeah.
day to day.
I know
Um,
Victor had to jump. He had a hard stop 1 minute ago. But Victor, thanks
no
thanks for
problem.
coming on.
Yeah, show
We
yourself.
usually we try to bring everybody back once a quarter, every 2 quarters. People like the update, so always welcome to have you back anytime. Feel free to show yourself where people can reach you, and we'll see you.
Thanks, guys. It's a pleasure. Thanks for the conversation. It was a very good conversation. If you have any questions, feedback on what we're building, feel free. I really enjoy talking to you, and let's hang out, Marty, when I'm in Rio. Let's do something.
Are you going to be in Sao Paulo next week for Merge?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Okay, I'll see you there. I'll be there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Victor. For our listeners, if you want to follow along with what Victor's doing, you can follow at Nora Finance XYZ. It's in the link to this stream. You can go to the Kion Exchange Twitter to find that. It's retweeted
Thanks.
on my page and Marty's. And Victor's is at CIOFFI_Victor. If you want to give him a follow, the same thing. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will be back Friday morning for Eden. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your week.
Ciao. Ciao. We'll see you.
Thanks, guys.